Sinclair, who was one of the main organizers, stated that he was pleased with the dignified way in which he said Junior Byles was sent off.
Junior Byles, you'll always be in my heart, close and dear. And as long as I live, your memory will never fade away. Look at what Perry's did. That's the AM63. That worth a pretty penny. Junior Byles was the first deceased to travel to India. He just got it last week. And he hurried up and fixed it up and put the music to it because he said Junior Byles was special. Look at the display of Perry. Let's take a look. A man that once was ridiculed. A man they say that was eaten out of garbage. But guess what? We love you in life. We gave you your roses in life. And in death, we're still putting you as the king that you ought to be. Junior Byles is the disciple of reggae music. And Big Stone said that with no apology.
Peter Perry, the owner of Perry's Funeral Home, confirmed that Junior Byles is the first person transported in the company's brand new vehicle, an AMG G63, commonly referred to as G-Wagon.
It's the first time out. I had some people waiting on it before it got here, but it took too long. So Junior Byles is the first person to sample it.
The life of 77-year-old roots reggae music icon Junior Byles. He was famous especially in the 1970s for hits such as Chant Down Babylon, Curly Locks, and Fade Away, from which these lyrics are taken.
The rich is getting richer every day, and the little that the poor man got shall be taken away. You never nice, you never nice.
The turnout for the proceedings was not as big as some would have liked, partly because the funeral took place on June 16, 2025, a Monday, the first day of the work week. It's a day that many Jamaicans will remember not only for Junior Byles' funeral, but also for a squall line that dumped massive gusts of wind and rainfall on some parts of the island. So powerful it was, even the Thanksgiving service was disrupted briefly. It is said that Junior Byles also cared about strangers, including Violet Eva Brown, who traveled from abroad to pay her last respects. It's among the ways that she has been showing gratitude to him over the years for assisting her when she was a child, 61 years ago.
I met him like about probably when I was 14. I was riding my bike once and I fell off and he was coming around the corner. I think he was going to work and he just put his hands out and helped me out.
Junior Byles was the third reggae music icon to be laid to rest within less than 3 months, the others being Coutesy and Max Romeo. His burial also happened the day before the death of another reggae star, Leroy Gibbons.
Nobody recognized him on the street. That's why he was robbed. One person hit him in his eye. He lost his eyes in the street. And I know it is because they did not know who was that man.
One of the reggae icon's sisters said his final years were spent in the love and care of his family.
Don't think bad of the family because it's not true. People with his illness is hard to look after and it's hard to control.
3 of Junior Byles' daughters participated in the Thanksgiving service. Cheryl read the first Bible lesson. Kristen, who is shown there in full black, presented the eulogy, and Camilla did. Junior Byles' successful and promising career actually faded away after he slipped into mental illness and ended up struggling with it for most of his life. At one point, he lived in the streets where he sometimes faced abuse. One of his siblings, Sally Jackson, told the Beacon that it was a struggle taking care of him.
My family looked after him when he reached the age of the time in his illness where you had to bathe him. We had to bathe him. And that sometimes 2-3 times a day just to keep him clean. That's what it was. But it wasn't hard. It was something we had to do. Our dad would kill us. Teach us to love, and we loved him anyway. And so we just have to love him. And we loved him. It wasn't a must, but it was hard work. But we saw it through. We saw it through because he was really sick and it deteriorated then. After many years, it got worse. But you have to do more. To the point, even in the end, you'd feed him. You know? What he wants, you give him.
In Junior Byles' latter years, it became easier for his family to take care of him, this as he was no longer physically strong and he was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. His sister told the Beacon that he was like a baby all over again.
You sanctify the homes of the living and make holy the places of the dead. You alone open the gates of righteousness and lead us to the dwelling place of the saints. Blessed is the Lord our God.
One of the bereaved daughters, Kristen Byles, who is shown there in full black, was scheduled to present the eulogy at the Thanksgiving service, but what she did sounded more like a personal remembrance that focused mainly on the bond she shared with her father, a man whose rich musical legacy was overshadowed by mental illness, which resulted in him even living in the streets. His dear friend, Claude Sinclair, better known as Big Stone, said many people did not recognize him, and so they treated him badly.
Junior Byles was at a time where there was no social media. Absolutely none. So most people don't know what he looked like. So when he had his mental issues, which we need to talk about, when Junior Byles had his mental issues, nobody recognized him on the street. That's why he was robbed. One person hit him in his eye. He lost his eyes in the street. And I know it is because they did not know who was that man.
That man, known as Junior Byles, was born Kenneth Byles at Victoria Jubilee Hospital in Kingston on February 2, 1948. He was a fireman before he started recording music. He actually started doing that in the late 1960s as part of the group called the Versatiles. He eventually went solo in the following decade and found instant success. Minister of Entertainment Olivia Babsy Grange, in a tribute at the funeral, said Junior Byles was one of Jamaica's great roots reggae artists whose death has left a huge void in the industry.
One of Jamaica's great roots reggae artists. His powerful voice, his thought-provoking lyrics made his music stand out, and his death has left a huge void in the industry.
Similar sentiments came from opposition spokesperson for culture Dr. Deborah Hickling-Gordon, who represented leader of the opposition Mark Golding.
Junior Byles belonged to a generation of artists who used reggae not to chase fame, but to challenge systems, to confront justice, and to call the people of the world to higher ground. In every verse, he reminded us that our struggle is sacred and our culture is revolutionary. As a nation, we must not let that consciousness fade away.
There were a number of other tributes before the Thanksgiving service ended, and pallbearers resumed duties, taking the casket to the Paris funeral home hearse. Shortly after that, Junior Byles was brought on his final journey through the streets, from Ronnie Williams Entertainment Center in St. Andrew to Dovecote Memorial Park in Spanish Town, St. Catherine.
The trumpet of the Lord shall sound, and the dead in Christ shall rise.